Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Run It Back. This week, we are reviewing Batman Mask of the Phantasm. As you can see, had to take some of the anime down and bring in bats to go into Gotham City with me. I'm joined by my Run It Back co-host, as always, Mr. Adam Schubert and Ian Hawley. I started with Ian last time, so I'm going to start with Schubert. Schubert, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty well, man. There's just been a lot of really good stuff to watch this week on top of rewatching this movie.
That's a fact.
So,
That's a fact.
And just and I'll also started Downton Abbey with my girlfriend. That's what we've been watching, and it's actually like pretty interesting. So.
That's some bros who binge conversation that I'm excited to bring up to you. And speaking of that,
I'll mention it again on that.
By the time you're listening to this, the latest Bros Who Binge is out. If you're a fan of Mayor of Easttown, we reviewed that. Loki episode 1, we reviewed that. Talked about a lot of news. Be sure to check that out. But that's not this pod. That is Run It Back. So let's bring in our other co-host, editor of the Bros Who Think editor at the Bros Who Think Network, Mr. Ian Hawley. Ian, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, man. I recently started rewatching. What is it? True Detective, first season. Because my parents had never seen it, and I was home the other day, so I was like, "All right, you guys got to get into this." And then I got sucked in myself.
Okay, so y'all were watching the McConaughey season.
Yeah. I mean, the other ones, I watched a little bit of season 2 with Vince Vaughn, and I was not impressed. And then I didn't even give season 3 a fair chance, really. But I heard it wasn't as good either. So
the Vince Vaughn,
Colin,
yeah, I was about to say the Vince Vaughn, Colin Farrell season, or not Colin Farrell, Taylor Kitsch. I get them confused. Trash. The Mahershala Ali season isn't bad. It's not bad, but it's not as good as the
It's not Russ Cole.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not McConaughey and Harrelson. That is for sure.
Ian, if you like you need to watch some McConaughey's like 90s and early 2000s work before he did all the rom-coms.
Lincoln Lawyer is great.
Very, very similar Russ Cole vibes, like A Time to Kill. He plays a lawyer. It's a really good movie.
McConaughey playing a lawyer is great. Like for the movie he just talked about, Lincoln Lawyer. One of those we will do on this pod. Probably Lincoln Lawyer, because that movie is a little newer, and it has a lot of things that play into who's kicking ass today. But it's time. I'm excited today because y'all know I'm a big superhero guy, and this is the first real superhero movie we've done on Run It Back. So I'm gonna start off with Schubert to get your initial thoughts. How do you feel that this is our first superhero movie that we're doing? And give just your thoughts either on the movie or just your thoughts leading into this review.
Yeah, I guess you're right. This is the first superhero movie that we're doing. But
Scott Pilgrim was the first comic book movie, but it wasn't really a superhero movie.
I think it's good because I think when we were all growing up, for the most part, we watched the Batman the Animated Series. It really was kind of the introduction for a lot of people into like comic book on screen.
That's a fact.
So
because you got to think, in our generation, comics weren't as huge. Like comics were big in our parents' generation. Comics were big to people like when we were born. If you were a teenager or an adult or like someone who was 12, 11 in the 90s when we were born, then comics were for you. But you got to think, when we were 10, 8, 9, it was the mid 2000s. Marvel had gone bankrupt and had sold their shit. DC was not in the best of places. And the thing that really kept the comic book thing alive was Spider-Man the Animated Series, X-Men the Animated Series, Justice League, Teen Titans, Batman the Animated Series. That was the lore of comic books, at least for our generation. And I think that's the disconnect with, I can't speak for Marvel, but at least with DC and the DC movies today and the fans of today, because they're going back and doing comics, like super crazy comic shit that people haven't heard. They're doing characters like, for example, the Flash is Barry Allen. There's no reason why the Flash shouldn't be Wally West because of Justice League. And I think they're missing that a whole generation of kids grew up on Bruce Timm and Paul Dini.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you think about, and this movie is a really prime example of that when we get into the what it's all about. You know, DC kind of lost their identity when it came to what it means to tell the comic book story within a movie.
Yep.
I think they kind of went for what was popular. And I mean, even in the 90s, they had their fair share of disconnect. I mean, you know, this came out right around the Tim Burton Batmans, and it definitely shares deep influence with it. But then after this, you get the Clooney and the Val Kilmer Batmans,
which are different, off the rails.
Wait, they're toy commercials, pretty much.
Yep, pretty much, 100%. Ian, what's your initial thoughts on this movie, or just what me and Schubert were talking about? Just jump on in here.
Well, I had just started watching Batman the Animated Series for the first time probably a month ago.
You didn't grow up on the stuff me and Schubert are talking about. Okay, cool. So let's get your whole take on this.
I'm new to the game. And so I didn't realize when we were picking out, through the choices of these movies that we put up in the last poll, I didn't realize this was directly related to the animated series. And I was kind of, when the title sequence started, I was like, oh man, is this going to ruin the series for me? Like I'm still on season 1, but really it was a nice tie-in with just getting acquainted to like the starting lore of this series. And now I feel like when I go back to the series itself, I'll have a much better idea of where Bruce Wayne is coming from, so I can see where he's about to go during this series.
It's in a lot of ways the Batman Begins of the Batman the Animated Series.
That's a fact. And then on top of that, you have to watch Sub-Zero next, because that's a movie that didn't get as much shine as this one, but that movie's just as good with Mr. Freeze, Robin, the birth of Batgirl. And then on top of that, there's Batman Superman, which ties in Superman the Animated Series, and this Joker with Lex Luthor. We're gonna that one. I think we would review before Sub-Zero, because that movie is incredible. Like Schubert, you know which one I'm talking about. It's not Public Enemies. It's Batman and Superman, World's Finest, where Joker gets a jade green dragon of kryptonite. Shit is crazy.
It's pretty wild. And you'll hear a similar voice in that. The person who voiced Andy in this one voiced Lois Lane. So.
That's a fact. That is a fact. And I didn't realize that all these years until this episode. And I was like, wait, why does, because when you first get introduced to her, before you see her face, you hear her voice, and I'm like, what the fuck is Lois Lane doing in Gotham?
Yeah.
So blew my mind.
It struck me too, because I had more recently seen the Superman animated series. So I was
exactly. I remember you saying that, and that made me watch it, and I was like loving it, and I was like, wait, Lois Lane? What? Doesn't make sense to me. But I will say, this movie, in terms of comic book accuracy, voice acting, animation, just every note about this movie hits. It does not miss. And I feel like this movie, if was released today, could be Oscar nominated. And I went to look to see, the best animated category wasn't there at the time. They just had best animated short, and it was too long to fit into that. But in terms of everything about this movie, it hit on 10, from voice acting to animation. And at its time, it's above the game in terms of how things looked. Ian, how did you think this film worked as an animated film?
It was really good. I was surprised at some of the places that they went with this movie, as far as the themes that they had represented in this movie, how dark it got at times compared to the episodes that I've seen of the series itself. I was impressed. I mean, this movie, even if it had just come out as its own movie and there was no Batman the Animated Series, I still would have really enjoyed this movie.
Yep, 100%. Schubert, how do you feel? Because Batman the Animated Series, you can say, is an anthology series, the first one of its kind. No episodes tied together. How do you feel this either uplifts the animated series or continues its lore? I think it I don't want to say is better than the animated series, but no, I'm gonna say it. It is, because the fact that it goes darker, it does not feel like this movie is for kids, and it's crazy that Paul Dini and Bruce Timm got away with this with Warner Brothers.
Yeah, I mean, it is a marketed kids movie, but it is very different in the series in the way of storytelling. It gets a little bit more darker with the themes. I didn't get that. There we go. And also with some of the violence that it actually includes. It's pretty crazy that they actually were able to get this done as 93.
Yep.
for a kids animated movie in the age of Disney. It's pretty
And the
crazy.
funny thing is, we're going to talk about this when we talk about where this movie stands among the other Batman. The fights in this wasn't important. Like, this movie had very little fights. The thing,
Well,
and
and,
I, oh,
and that
go
was
ahead.
kind of the thing about the animated series too, is that the animated series didn't necessarily rely on having big fights. I mean, there were
Mm-hmm.
some episodes like POV where Batman's not even included. So
Yep.
they did a really good job of storytelling and building up Gotham and the noir aspect of Batman, which kind of made people like me, confused when we would see Batman movies growing up, because they would be way different than what the series was. And I think, as we've talked about in Bros Adventure before, we're still clamoring for a series that, or a movie that
And save that.
stays true to the series.
Save that, because we're going to talk about that at the end. But I just think that's interesting when you look at Nolan, when you look at just some of the other Batman we've seen, Ben Affleck. It's all about the martial arts. It's all about the fighting. And they've lost the detective aspect. And it was very refreshing watching this movie and getting that. But we'll talk more about that as we go. If you're a viewer of this show, we already given our initial thoughts. The next thing we do is go through background, best scenes, in which we go through chronologically, who won the movie, who lost the movie. We have a theme question that we ask at the end. This week's theme question will be just how does this relate to other Batman, and us diving into what makes a good Batman movie. And then I have two Are We Sures, because this movie definitely had two major Are We Sures that I wasn't sure about. So let's jump into background. So this week's background, Batman Mask of the Phantasm, also known as Batman the Animated Movie. Mask of the Phantasm is a 1993 American animated superhero film featuring the DC Comics character, of course, Batman, directed by Eric Radomowski. Schubert, look that up, see if he's done anything else, because I have not heard of this guy's name since, but it was directed by Eric Radomowski, Radomski, and Bruce Timm. It's based upon the Batman the Animated Series and is the first original theatric film produced by Warner Brothers Animation, the first film in the DC animated universe, and the only one released theatrically. This film was written by Alan Burnett, Paul Dini, Martin Pasco, and Michael Reeves. Kevin Conroy, Mark Hamill, Ephraim Zalblish Jr., Bob Hastings, and Robert Costanzo reprised their roles from the animated series, joined by Dana Delaney, Hart Bochner, Stacy Keach Jr., Abe Vigoda. And if you know, Abe Vigoda is from The Godfather. He is oh man, how am I blanking on his name? The guy who betrayed him. The guy who betrays Michael. Not Berlowski. Oh fuck, Ian. Do you remember who betrayed Michael in Godfather 1? The guy, he was like, and the dad was like, whoever comes to you first is the one who betrays you, and it was him who came first. That's Abe Vigoda. Can't think of his name
I
right
can
now.
see his.
I can see his old
face.
ass face. Yeah, exactly. Can't fucking think of his name, but that's him. He's also in this movie playing one of the mobsters, which I think is very fitting. We have Dick Miller and John P. Ryan. The story follows Batman as he reconciles with a former lover, Andrea Beaumont, and faces a mysterious vigilante who's murdering Gotham City's crime bosses. The plot was inspired by Mike Barr's Batman Year 2 comic book story arc, but features an original antagonist, the Phantasm, and Place of the Reaper, while borrowing elements from Batman Year 1, the graphic novel. Funny enough, we have not seen the Phantasm in many DC stuff since, but it is in a comic book series right now, Batman and Catwoman by Tom King. So I'm interested to see how they use Andrea Beaumont, and I think she's actually a very good villain for the Batman roster, which we'll talk about as well. Originally planned for a direct-to-video release, Warner Brothers gave Mask of the Phantasm a theatrical release. Considering its production in a strenuous 8-month schedule, the film was the first theatrical film produced by Warner Brothers Animation, was released through the studio's in Family Entertainment Division on December 25th, 1993. It had extremely positive reviews, which praised the stylized animation, voice performances, story, and music. But Warner Brothers shot themselves in the foot because they decided to put it in theaters on short notice with not a lot of promo. It failed at the box office, but it was not only a success home media, it became just a freaking comic meteor and how much it sold, thus giving us standalone sequels: Batman, Mr. Freeze, Sub-Zero, Mystery of the Batwoman in 2003, as well as Batman and Superman, World's Finest. Until the release of The Killing Joke in 2016, Mask of the Phantasm was the only animated film to be given a theatrical release. Paul Dini intended. Okay, so here's some of the themes which I thought was interesting to put in. Paul Dini intended that each of the flashbacks into Batman's love life gets worse and worse, and you never know when things are going to get better. And as you see and hope things get better, they continuously get worse. Bruce's relationships with Andrea, which at first shows promise, eventually turns into turmoil. At first, Bruce and Andrea are set for marriage, but then Bruce is given a farewell note, cutting off their relationship. This leads to his decision to be Batman. And the person at time, Richard Corliss, felt that the scene parallels Andrea's decision to avenge her own parents and reject love when she finds her own parents murdered. Both events transformed people, but both went down different paths. I thought that was very interesting mirror, and I think that's why she's a great villain. Basically, the film made $5 million in its theatrical run. The filmmakers blamed Warner Brothers for an unsuccessful marketing campaign, which Warner Brothers, you got to stop shooting yourselves in the foot. But that's pretty much it. Not too much casting what ifs, not too much like voice actors, because we know who they are. It's Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill.
You asked me to look into Eric Radomowski.
Yep.
He was one of the developers of this animated series, so he was credited as a writer on every episode. He directed 3 of the animated series episodes, including one of my favorites, If You're So Smart, Why Aren't You Rich? The Riddler.
All the Riddler episodes are great in the animated series.
He directed Phantasm. He was directed 2 episodes of Freakazoid. He was the primary director of Todd McFarlane's Spawn.
Nice.
Which is a good animated series.
Great animated series. Very underrated animated series.
Did a lot of the more modern Marvel ones, including the Spider-Man one that I enjoy.
Okay. So the Drake Bell Spider-Man, who is in hot water right now.
We don't speak his name.
Yeah, we do not speak that clown's name. But all right. Yeah, so that's the background of this film. Let's jump into best scenes. The first scene I wrote down is the intro to the Phantasm and killing Chucky's soul. I thought this was just a great way with all the music here and everything, and then seeing the Phantasm doing what they are doing. And at the time, you don't know it's Andrea Beaumont. What was your initial thoughts of seeing the Phantasm, Ian, being that you didn't see this movie? Were you intrigued by the design and anything?
Yeah, actually, as the opening credits were rolling, I was thinking, wow, what an awful day it must have been in the animation room having to animate all of the skyline shots just to get into the movie. I'd have been pissed if I was that, artist.
Straight beautiful, though.
It was, it was reminiscent of like a mid 2000s rom-com movie where they show like the New York skyline and then zoom in on the person's apartment. So I thought that was a nice touch to start the movie. And then they just jump right into it. I mean, the movie starts off with the killing of Chucky's soul. And right away I was surprised. Like I say, I've only seen probably the first 15 or 20 episodes of the animated series. And one of my qualms with the episodes, especially at the beginning, are sometimes they kind of lack substance, or like maybe it's just because I'm 25 now and watching a kid's show.
No, there's some episodes that feel super fillery, and that's
especially early on.
Exactly.
It doesn't. If I'm being honest, the animated series doesn't really start clicking until
40.
Until the transformation of Two-Face.
And that's actually where I'm at right now. So I guess it's going to pick up here in a second, but it's just been a lot of introductory episodes for not only Batman and his surrounding cast, like Alfred, but also the villains as well. So I was like, okay, we're getting right into it now with this movie. So it really grabbed me. And I thought, again, it was much darker than anything I had seen from the animated series so far, with the actual murder of a character.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'm hooked. Let's jump right in.
It had a lot of very theatrical elements. The fact that it was in a parking garage felt very like realistic for like a Batman movie.
Felt very Christopher Nolan movie.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking right off the bat. So like that was what really kind of struck me with that death. But
what struck me, I love the design of the Phantasm, like the ripped cloak, the hook, the hook for a hand. Like I thought I thought everything was like, I don't want to say opposite of Batman, but felt very a reflection of Batman. I think the best Batman villains reflect him in a certain way. Joker reflects his moral code at its finest. Harvey Dent reflects Bruce Wayne if Bruce Wayne would have went in a bad way. Mr. Freeze represents like the way that how Batman doesn't choose necessarily to get revenge, where Mr. Freeze is all about revenge. Oswald Cobblepot represents the opposite side of Bruce Wayne if Bruce Wayne goes poor and allows greed to really take over. And I think Andrea Beaumont represents the direct, like, her parents were killed, his parents were killed, and these are how these two people go about it differently. And I think that's just a very interesting thing.
The reflections of vengeance, as we'll get to eventually.
True. So the next scene I have is Batman actually detectiving in the Batcave about Chucky's soul. And this is something we're going to talk about later, but I love that. Like, I don't understand why filmmakers today don't think that that's interesting. I think if you can tell a compelling story and you actually have a very interesting story and you write it well, it doesn't matter if he's detectiving or if he's fighting, you're telling a good story.
Yeah, I think they get wrapped up in the idea of the superhero, where like, what is everything that's coming out right now? Detective thrillers.
Yep.
So like, come on.
Yeah, and we don't necessarily need, boom pow fight scenes every 5 seconds. And I think that's kind of where, not necessarily this series itself, but some other superhero series that
the Marvel series that's why they don't work.
Exactly. I mean, it's way too action focused and not enough plot focused, in my opinion.
So what's the next scene y'all have? I'll let y'all go because I have. I'm gonna just.
Bruce Wayne at his house for the party, and Bambi and all the other girls fawning over him, being like, "Bruce, why won't you marry me or whatever?" And then like
getting splashed in his face.
Yeah, getting splashed in the face, and then he goes into his room with the parents' portrait.
Wait, but before that,
the first flashback.
Before that, I wrote down the shade between Arthur and Bruce Wayne about Andrea Beaumont. And he was like, "Shove this up your ass." I was like, "Whoa, they're going there!" And that scene right there should have told you, like, "Whoa, this isn't like the animated scene." Bruce Wayne just told this dude to shove this up his ass.
Oh, you mean Arthur Reeves?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck that councilman douche.
Yeah, that guy sucks. We don't like him.
But like Schubert said, we go into the flashback and Bruce meets Andrea. And then that's Bruce in year one mode from the first time. For the first time out, we see him with like the fucking robber mask where he looks like he's like about to be a thug. And then we have the him training outside. So that's what I wrote down. Everything about that flashback was just very year one to me.
Well, and also the initial part of their meeting at the gravesite.
Yep.
They both kind of bonding over the fact that they lost a parent. What was it? She says something negative about Bruce Wayne, and she was like, "My mom was asking," or whatever.
Yep. Why do you always look like you want to kill yourself? And that's another theme of this about Bruce's suicidal tendencies, because he doesn't feel that he should be alive because he lost his parents. It's very traumatic. He felt like he should have died with them. And that's a theme that is constantly throughout this movie. So the next thing I have is the Phantasm takes out Buzz Bronski. Dude had a fucking pickaxe, thought he was about to get the Phantom out of here.
Not today.
No,
they got
sir.
smashed by the giant angel sculpture.
Ooh, that would have sucked. Dude was he alive when he fell into the grave? Do you think he got buried alive?
Yeah, he was.
He tried to get out. They show him like clawing at the edges, but he's just too short and fat to pull himself out of the grave.
What a shitty way to die.
Angel falls on him.
He got it the worst out of all the crime bosses.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the point where they begin to suspect that it's Batman, because his two henchmen run up and see the Phantasm, going away, and they mistake the Phantasm for Batman. So that leads the other mobsters to start thinking that Batman is the one picking mobsters off.
Yep. And then the next scene I have is what you talked about. Batman goes by the Wayne's. Oh no, this is in real time. This is not a flashback. The next scene I have is Batman goes by the Wayne's graves, and Andrea Beaumont sees Batman and then makes the connection that, oh shit, Batman is Bruce Wayne. And this is like, are we sure? Like, are we sure she would have known that was him? Like, just because he was, you think
Yeah.
so? Okay.
Well, I mean, like,
Like, how do you know he was looking at that grave? How do you know he wasn't investigating the Bronski shit?
Well, it's always the same thing with like how eventually Catwoman kind of figures out who Batman is like once you've been like macking on the man, like you can tell what his cheekbones look like and all that.
True.
And his jaw. Like, I mean, you can kind of figure that out. I think she was kind of putting two and two together, and she even knew the inclinations that he had early on, as we see in the flashbacks. So it wouldn't surprise her that he had gone down this path.
True.
I'm sure like she even heard stories about Batman and assumed that it was him.
You're great point, especially like when we talk about some of the flashbacks coming down the line.
And thinking about how much the Phantasm mirrors Batman in a way.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right. So what's the next scene you guys have?
Is that the same flashback as when they go to like the it's not the World's Fair, but just kind of like a fair and Tomorrow
perfect.
World.
That's the next thing. The next thing I have is Batman spying on Arthur and Andrea having dinner. He gets in his feels. I thought that was a beautiful scene where Batman's not crying, but when they have the rain on him and they do the close up on his face and you see the rain dropping down, mixing with his tears, I was just like, yes, this is what I love. My Batman is in his feels. Like, fuck you, bitch. You're hurting Bruce. I just felt that. And I was just like, this is why he's my favorite superhero, because they show his vulnerability. But Ian, to your point, after that, he flashbacks to when they're dating and they go to Gotham's World Fair where he sees his idea for the Batmobile. So that's
I mean, like you say, Schubert, he's kind of like getting all these ideas, and then there's one more big flashback towards the end of the movie that really solidifies it. But he's getting all these, slowly just piecing it together of who his alter ego is going to become.
It's about the plans.
I bet it wasn't too hard for her to figure it out.
Side by side with that, though, he's also building this relationship with Andrea Beaumont. You can see through at least this flashback and
it's do I choose her or do I choose to go through with my plan that I promised my parents? And Alfred's like, well, Bruce, how do you know this is not your parents sending her to make you happy? And when you see that and you hear everything everybody's been telling him, it makes sense why he's never loved again, because the one time he tried to drop his plan, the girl fucked him over. And it's like, well, the only thing that's continuous in my life is the plan, is Batman. I'm no longer Bruce Wayne. I am Batman. And I think this choice, like Schubert said, the two pushing each other between Andrea Beaumont and Batman, I think at that point when he chooses to be Batman in the later flashback, that's the death of Bruce Wayne.
Pretty much.
Yep.
Moving into that though, is where he gets to Andrea Beaumont goes back to her apartment and, Creepo tries to like get in or whatever, but, she leaves him at the door. She realizes when she opens the door immediately that her window's open. Batman's probably there. And of course,
wait, you jumped the gun. You jumped the gun.
That was right after that though, huh?
Oh no, because I had to say Sal Valestra goes to see Andrea Beaumont's father, and he has a very interesting driver. He has a very interesting driver, and we learn about the beef between we start to see the seeds planted of the beef that comes between Sal Valestra and Andrea Beaumont's father. Like we can't skip over that because that's huge. That's a huge like thing that goes into that. And then the next thing I have after that is what you're saying, Schubert, about Bruce tried to stop scratch that. I'm still in flashback mode. Bruce tries to stop a robbery and realizes Andrea distracted him. And that's the first seed of like, should I choose her? Can I have both? I can't have both because she distracts me and I either have to have one or the other. And that's where he starts to like, he goes to the grave and is questioning his promise and is like, why can't I be happy? Do I love y'all? Really? Yeah, that happens. That's that flashback. And he's like, I'll give money, I'll donate, I'll make sure that the city gets cleaned up. And meanwhile, we're just hearing lightning every time he says something like his parents are saying no. And then Andrea comes in and hits him with, how do you know they didn't send me to make you happy? And then we see Bruce is happy with Andrea. Ian, being that you new to all of the animated series, how did you feel about this whole array of events?
I thought it was great, man. They really did a good job of painting the inner conflict that he was going through. I mean, he even says at one point, how can I go out and, make myself vulnerable or put myself out there if there's someone waiting for me to come home at night?
Yep.
So he's really just struggling with the fact that he has to make a choice here, and he knows that to keep his promise to himself, the one that will ultimately lead him to feel fulfilled, it's not the one that is going to allow him to have a normal life or to continue his relationship with this woman that he's probably at this point already in love with.
Yep.
So that's a big kind of turning point for him, is realizing like, okay, I gotta figure my shit out here. I can't just keep, kind of going along and expecting everything to work out in the end.
And all of this makes sense to why he doesn't get love again. Why is he this playboy who is just meeting all these chicks? Is because he can't open himself up to them, because like I said, the last time he did, it didn't work in his favor. And it kind of messed him up. So then we go back to the present where Batman is figuring out the ties between the murdered victims, and Alfred throws shade at Batman. Schubert, this goes to your point about Alfred's quips. I wrote it down about how he was like, I powdered your bum. I ought to know you, because he was like, are you going to see Andrea after this? He's like, shut up, Alfred. And Alfred's like, nah, you shut up, bitch.
The other one I like that happens right around this time too is where Arthur Reeves is on TV and he's like, what kind of city are we running when we depend on the support of a potential madman? And Alfred's like, what a rot, sir. Why you're the very model of sanity. Oh, by the way, I pressed your tights and I put away your exploding gas balls.
I love Alfred, man. And see, this is something that only few Batman movies have gotten right. This Alfred is one of the best. I think the only one that comes close to him, which Nolan actually did very well, was Michael Caine.
Yeah, Michael Caine's just phenomenal.
Well, Jeremy Irons was pretty good as Alfred too. Can't deny that. That was one of the best things about the Snyderverse.
He just seemed too young.
How are you going to feel about Andy Serkis then?
I feel like Andy Serkis is okay, because like Andy Serkis, honestly, he's about 55. I mean, he's
16,
not young.
No.
So like, and you can make him look a little older.
Oh, you felt that Jeremy Irons was too young compared to Ben Affleck's. Okay, got you.
Like I would not have believed that he would have been.
They look more like brothers than anything.
Yeah.
Got you. Okay. But yeah, this Alfred's amazing, and those quips, pristine. So the next scene I have after that is Bruce proposes to Andrea, and the bats surround him, baby. Like, you're making the wrong move, Brucey. Like, the bats knew, and they come from his cave. It's just freaking amazing. I love that. And then Andrea and Bruce go to tell her dad, but then when they get there, Sal Valestra's at Andrea's house, and she's like, Bruce, you can leave. I'll tell Daddy, and we'll come meet you in the morning. And then that same old driver, whoever that is, flicks a cigarette at Bruce's car, and you can see that there's a little beef there. They don't like each other. It's very interesting that those two particular gentlemen don't like each other. I just want to keep mentioning that before we find out what's up with that. But then the next thing I have is Bruce gets the ring sent back to him and is ghosted, but it's time to proceed with the plan, and he becomes Batman. This is the flashback you're talking about, Ian, where he puts on the hood and we see the eyes, and Alfred's like, oh, Master Bruce.
Yeah, there was another flashback before that. I think it was the one when Andrea first comes to his house when he's doing jujitsu out in the yard. He's like, like I did my best, but they weren't scared of me. And finally he figures out, how to really bring out that alter ego that he wants.
And we even see him drawing like versions of the costume sitting by the fireplace, and he's like, nope, throwing this away. I just love that, because you're actually seeing, because see, the issue that I have with some of the Nolan stuff and the Schumachers and whatever, and I love Lucius Fox, don't get it twisted, I love Lucius Fox, but Nolan's Batman just went to Lucius, hey, make this. Or like, even in Batman Begins, he makes his suit, but it's not, I don't know, it just doesn't feel the same.
Well, what I would say is like what's similar to this in Batman Begins is like, you have the two different stories, but the story of the bats in the cave, and I feel like that's kind of like how he gets his inspiration. So
true.
A mirror in a sense.
True. And in Batman Begins, he does make his own suit with Alfred, because I do remember him putting the things in, testing it out. The initial
suit.
Yeah, the initial suit.
He gets Lucius to make it better. Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, this Batman makes everything for himself. This Batman is brilliant. And when people are like Tony Stark versus Batman, they're like, oh, Batman's just somebody who gets people to make his suit. That's not the case. Like, that's just Nolan's model. Like, this Batman makes everything for himself, which I think is really, really amazing. Okay, so the next scene I have, oh, we got to talk about this. Bruce got ghosted. Bro, that hurt my
just a note.
soul, bro.
Yeah,
just
that
a
was
note. Too
like
young? Daddy said we're too young? What? Y'all are like 25, 26, 27.
Yeah, Ian, I'd like to know your perspective at this point because, like, the first time I remember watching this, I'm like, because I don't know the ending, and I'm like, what the heck is up with this chick? Like, what the heck happened?
Yeah, I was like, okay, maybe she just got cold feet and like tried to blame it on her dad. Because they have that flashback a little earlier, and then as I think it's the next flashback where they show her perspective of her walking into the house after Bruce drops her off.
That's the next
It's
one.
like, all right, this is making more sense now.
Yep.
Because it just seemed like she was always the one who was fighting for the relationship, and he was kind of the one with the cold feet.
But then
all
he
of a sudden,
changed.
he's like, yeah, we're gonna do this shit, and she's like, all right, cool. And then 24 hours later, she's like, nah, dog, I'm out.
Exactly. That's why I was
I'm going with my
hurting,
dad to Europe.
It just
I was
didn't
like,
seem like her. I was just like, what the hell?
I was just like, yo, this dude changed his plan. He was like, no more Batman. I'm giving it up for you. And like, she was just like, nah, bro, I'm outie. I'm going with my pops to Europe. Like, Bruce can't take you to Europe. Like, he's not the richest man on the planet. And that's one of my Are We Sure's. It's gonna come up in a little bit, so I'll just save it.
Well, I was thinking like, okay, this is her dad. Like, no, that guy sucks. You shouldn't marry that guy. So he like made her.
That's what I thought at first. That's what I thought at first. And I was like, Beaumont, you're not rich as Bruce Wayne. What you talking about, bro? And he's not a playboy at this time. So I'm like, what is he really talking about? Like, this is still just young Bruce. Like, he has not been in the limelight. He's been training this whole time. Like, there should be no qualms with Andrea's father and Bruce. So it was just a lot of like, you're just being the worst. So the next thing I have after all of that is now entering the party is the one, the only Joker through Sal Valestra. And you see they have a pass when Joker calls him Paisan. But Joker gets furious when he touches him, showing the change of how he was once a henchman, is now the lead villain. You don't mess with him. I just thought that scene between Sal Valestra and Joker was very telling, and I just loved it. Like when they painted the screen red and you see Joker's anger, like, nah, Sal Valestra, I'm not your bitch anymore, dog. Don't fucking touch me. And I just love that whole interaction with Joker.
Yeah, I just recently finished watching The Sopranos, and there were a couple of moments where I just laughed in this movie because it reminded me of that. Like the one scene where Butch or Buzz Bronski is running through the graveyard. He's yelling for his henchmen. I just heard, "Holy Christopher, come and help me!" And they're like, "We're coming, Tone."
Tony, shut up,
Tone,
Christopher.
where are you, Tone? And then this scene as well. Just big, either
Paisan,
Sopranos or Godfather vibes.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Hamill's Joker, making an appearance is always great. I mean, he does the representation of, I guess, the best for someone like me who, started on the series. Like, I just can't imagine Joker being anything different than
and
Mark
I feel
Hamill's
like this,
Joker.
Schubert, let me ask you this, since you watched all of the animated series, is this his best showing as Joker? Because I felt like he got to let loose in this one.
I think yeah, you're on something there. He definitely has some other moments because he gets to play Joker in almost all the animated stuff, and like a lot of the more darker stuff that happens later on, he gets
like
to do
the Killing Joke, but even that, I felt like even though the Killing Joke was intended to be dark, I think that this one is better than that one, just for the fact that it's not intended to be it. Well, it's dark, but I think he makes it dark.
He does a very good job of towing the line between like, I'm really dark, but I'm also
funny.
A comedian.
Yep.
And like some of the things he says are like funny, but they're also like super
crazy.
Dark. Like,
yeah. Like,
and
I
he also does
like
a really good job of towing the line between complete psychopath and absolute genius.
Smartest man in the plane. Yes. And that's what I love about Mark Hamill's Joker, because you can never tell. Is he crazy? Is he smart? Like, is he a psychopath? And I think that's what makes the Joker great. And Mark Hamill is one of the few that actually grasp that at one moment Joker can be this absolute lunatic, but at the next moment he's the smartest man in the room and compatible with Bruce. So
yeah.
Love that. So the next thing I have is after that, Andrea, that fucking skank. Oh, she upsets me so much. Kisses Arthur in front of Batman on purpose. She knows he's in the house. And then Arthur, like just like a little simp, leaves and is like, oh, Andrea, I got you over Bruce. Nah, bitch, she just using you. You just don't even understand. And she sees him, and through all this, they're having conversation. Batman hits her with like, yeah, but you left me first. And then she hits him with Batman hits her with, are you still following daddy's order? And she hits him with the real butt stinger. And I was like, oh, you messed up for this. She was like, the way I see it, the only person being controlled by their parents is you. And then she starts crying when he leaves. Nah, bitch, don't cry. Don't cry, nah. Fuck you. And I don't even think she was crying about Batman. I think she was crying because her dad's dead, which is even more fucked up.
Maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, you haven't seen.
You don't know yet. Yeah, true. Yeah. That is true.
So I thought it was just like, it's the classic like domestic argument where you say some shit to your significant other in the heat of the moment, and then
don't mean it.
Somebody storms out, and then immediately you feel like an asshole, and you want to go
across the
line
to that
Ian. Person. But you can't because you crossed the line.
Yeah.
So she's got to now sit and deal with, okay, not only did I fuck this guy over like a decade ago, but now I'm
fucking him over again.
Yeah. I had the perfect opportunity to patch shit up here, and I just went and ruined it again. So now I'm realizing what a terrible bitch I am yet again.
Jesus, just the worst. So the next thing I have after that is the Phantasm goes after Sal. But Sal's dead. Joker killed him beautifully. And then we get the recording of Joker saying, haha, I got you. Now a bomb's coming. Just great Joker quips in there as well. And then
and that was because he was still expecting it to be Batman. He didn't know about the Phantasm yet. And he recorded it. And so at least for him, he knows that it's not the Phantasm.
He figured it out who the Phantasm was before Bruce did. Like Joker's like, oh, I know who it is. Like, I know why you're picking us off. And I'm gonna wait to ask this question because I have a question for y'all that I think that the movie tried to do. I just don't think I ever believed it. Even when I first watched it, and I know people will be like, well, you've watched this multiple times now, so you can say that. So I want to get Ian's take on it in a little bit. But the next scene I have after that is...
what happens after that is Batman is chasing the Phantasm.
Yep.
And then he gets caught up in the police.
Yep. And then Andrea saves Batman.
Yep.
And then Andrea
and that's the first moment that for someone who doesn't know the ending, you really start to think, why was she there? Like, why was she like so close to the scene?
Well, she says like, oh, I was watching the news and you were all over the news, so I knew I had to come help you. And I was like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense.
Did you believe that? You bought that?
Maybe she lives nearby. Like, she's got a super fast car. Like,
hotel.
I was just chalking it up to the classic, like, suspension of disbelief for children's movies. You know what I'm saying?
Got you. See, and that's something that, like, I'm gonna keep. It gets to another point to where I'm gonna ask it, but then Andrea explained what was wrong with Sal and her pops and why she didn't marry Bruce. And then we get the flashback of them in Europe, and I think that's when we see Andrea's version of what happens and why she didn't like her dad being this fucker stealing money. He was like, I'm gonna launder it, and then begs for 24 hours, and then dude just hits the thing. So that's my are we sure? Why didn't she ask Bruce for the money to pay Sal Valestra back?
Well, I mean, if you're in the situation where it's like, okay, these people are gonna come to my house and shoot us, we should probably just, bail.
But Bruce would have helped. Like, there's no way Bruce doesn't help if he had the money.
No, that's true. I mean, I just don't know if it would have crossed her mind in the heat of the moment. You know what I'm saying?
True.
It didn't cross my mind. And not to say that I'm the smartest guy in the room, but, like if my dad comes to me and says, hey, Ian, we're fucked, guy. Like, we got to get out of town. I'd be like, all right, I guess we're packing our shit and getting out of town. I'm not stopping to call my friends asking for our $50.
I feel you on that, but it's different if you have a girlfriend that you're about to marry. Like, for example, I tell Curse if some mobsters are like, "Yo, Curse, my people, we're about to get fucked," like shit is fucked. So I feel like she should have, but again, she didn't have enough time. There's no cell phones, different age, so it
also
makes
she
sense.
may have said like, I don't even want to get him wrapped up in all this. Like,
True.
I just found out my dad is a scumbag. I don't want to drag my
The
prospective
lover.
husband into this as well. Like,
Yep.
I'm gonna just leave him alone. He can go on and live his life, and we'll figure this shit out ourselves. This is a family affair.
True. That is true. So the next
Here,
thing,
the
go
one
ahead.
thing we didn't talk about again with that police stuff is that was where we got one of the more violent scenes. Bruce gets tear gas. Bruce gets shot at. Hit real hard. I mean, there's a lot of points in that where you just don't know how he's gonna get out of it. I mean, Andrea bails him out, but it's like, he was in a real bad situation.
And this is not gadget friendly Bruce that like has a million things to where he could zip line out of there. Like his grapple hook is barely like a gun. Like, dude is fucked. No button to push to call the Batmobile to jump in. His plane's already like locked up. Like it's over.
They'd already impounded the plane.
Which when he takes off his mask and his cape, and I was like, "What? Like, what the fuck are you doing?"
I always think that when Batman is about to get caught, like, why do you take off your shit to breathe?
Yeah, man,
like, what are you doing?
That's the last thing you want to do. Like, because then they can just come to your house if they see your face. Like, the jig is up at that point. Like, I was like, okay, that was my "are we sure?" is when he's running through the alley and there's like 600 SWAT team members and all the cops chasing him. Like, wouldn't you think they would get a look at his face if he's running through? I mean, I know it was at night, but still, there's like street lights and things.
I'm with
and they got the gunfire, which is putting off a little bit of light here and there.
The helicopters are hitting them.
Yep. And then another "are we sure?" since we jumped back to this, and I'm glad we did. Are we sure Batman couldn't catch a random, no training Andrea Beaumont as the Phantasm? I don't buy it. This dude has fought Ra's al Ghul, has fought like some of the biggest, baddest motherfuckers on the earth, and he couldn't catch Andrea?
Well, is he suspecting her? I mean,
no, because at this time, he's still like definitively, and this is my next question that I'm going to ask you in a second, he definitively does not know it's her.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean,
so my question, he has to be going full strength. So if he's going full strength, how does he not catch it? Like, unless we're supposed to believe she went to train in Europe, but I doubt it.
Well, I'm trying to remember.
Well, she was already
I'm pretty sure the chase.
True.
Well, I'm pretty sure the chase doesn't really last that long. I think it only goes like 4 or 5 rooftops, and then.
But she hits him.
Cops are on him like that.
She knocks. She does some things to punch him away, and that's how she escapes with the smoke. And then the cops come and shine the light. So my thing is like, she shouldn't have even gotten those punches off on him.
Well, I mean, I assume that she probably did some training too, and like Ian said, like she was already at a point where like she was throwing him around. So like all those years in Europe and hiding, what are you gonna do? I would assume that she would have picked up some training, especially if she wanted to get her vengeance.
True. All right. That I just had to ask. Are we sure? So the next scene I wrote down is Batman figures out the driver is the Joker. Thus, he then starts to suspect, is Mr. Beaumont, Andrea's dad, the Phantasm? And this is where they start to really hammer it in that they want you to believe he's the Phantasm. At no point anytime I watch this movie did I think Andrea Beaumont's dad was the Phantasm. Is that just me? Like, and I know people are gonna be like I said, you watch this multiple times, so are you just saying that now? Ian, how did you feel? Because you're a fresh watcher. Did you ever think it was him?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was like, okay, this guy clearly has the motive for going after all these people. He's in debt to them. He wants to get out from under this debt. And he feels like the only way he can do so is by taking them out. So up until she takes the mask off,
you thought it was him.
Fight with the Joker, I thought it was him. Because I don't think they show you that flashback until after the fight is over. Where she figures out that her dad is dead, because I think they have the fight, and then like maybe in the middle of that fight or right after the fight when Bruce is talking with her, and he's asking her to leave because he's worried about her safety.
It's a little bit later.
He doesn't want her to take revenge. She's the Joker coming out of the house.
The Joker's the one who reveals it.
Because
I have that quote. He says, "I'm impressed, lady. You're harder to kill than a cockroach on steroids." And she's like, "So you figured it out?" And then she removes her mask.
But it's even before that. Because watch, Because then let's just wait, because there are two scenes before that really give it away, and that's how Batman figures it out. So after he figures out the driver's the Joker, Arthur gets Joker gas because Joker goes to Arthur, and then Arthur explains to Batman that he sold out Beaumont. Thus, that's when it's like, okay, so Beaumont is not the killer, because then Joker bombs Andrea's house and she's not there, and he's like, ooh, looks like my party has been disconnected. Hits him with that,
He was full of
Joker
zingers in
quip.
this movie.
It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And then that's when we get the flashback that Joker kills Beaumont in Europe back when he was a hitman. And that's before Andrea goes to confront Joker. So once Batman goes to Arthur, that's when we figure out that, okay, Beaumont is not the Phantasm.
I love
But
a
at
good
that
Joker
point,
gassing.
it was back up in the air for me. I still didn't suspect that it was Andrea.
Okay. So you just
the
thought
way
it was
that
some
they
random.
had drawn him up until this point, especially with the voice distortion from the mask or whatever she was wearing. I was like, all right, this is like clearly some dude. And I was wrong.
And see, also, I love how they make you think that Arthur could be the joke. Did y'all ever get that vibes that Arthur could have been a villain? Yeah.
I thought he could have been the Phantasm.
Thought he could have been the Phantasm. Thought he could have been Joker. Like when I was younger, not now. Looking back, like when I was super young, I was like, "Is this the Joker?" Like, huh? Like they made him seem like he could have been a villain of some sort, whether it's Joker, Phantasm. They definitely made Arthur seem like he was involved. But like Schubert says, love a good Joker tear gas, like love a good Joker gassing, and like Councilman, settle down.
See, I didn't ever think that he was the Joker. I just thought maybe they were setting it up for him to be somebody later in, like another movie, or maybe later in the movie he would come back and be like, yeah, I'm so and so now.
Is he still a councilman? Oh, go ahead, Schubert. You can finish it.
I was gonna say I could say where you're thinking that, because he does have like some Joker facial tendencies. It kind of looks like the Joker in the animated series, and also at that point you don't know where they are in Batman's,
and you don't know
timeline.
If Joker's involved in the movie at this point. Like, and it young me was like, he looks like him. That's the only thing. But me now, I definitely was like, oh, he could have definitely been a villain in this movie. They definitely set him up to where, is he the Phantasm? But question, is he a councilman after this? Batman exposes his ass, huh?
Yeah,
like with the Joker gas? Yeah, I don't think so. No way.
I thought he died. They had to
nah, he didn't die. Sure, no, his ass didn't die. He's just laughing forever. Well, not forever.
I think he's a classic inpatient for a while.
Arkham.
Goes crazy for a little bit. Okay, so like I said, Joker bombs Andrea's house. She's not there. Joker hits her with the classic line when the phone, but that's Batman. Hits Batman with the classic line like, oh, looks like my party's been disconnected. Loved it. Joker then kills Beaumont in Europe back when he was a hitman. And then love when he's walking out and he's like, winks at her like he's gonna get Andrea Beaumont after he kills her dad. Joker, sick dude as a hitman. Sick dude. And then the next thing I have is Andrea goes to confront Joker, like Schubert said, with the thing where she takes off the mask. They end up fighting, and then Batman comes to save Andrea from the Joker. And then I have Andrea ask Bruce to kill the Joker, and Bruce is like, nah, bitch, I can't cross that line, and if you come try to kill Joker, I will have to stop you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, he's basically pleading her to give
not
it
do
up,
it.
not only for her sake, but for his as well.
Because he doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to put her down. She's already killed 3 people. Well, 2. She's already killed 2 people, and Bruce is not with that at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she broke his heart multiple times in the process, including during that conversation, because he's like, damn, I thought we were about to get back together.
At that point, he knows it's over with her. Like, because before him and Alfred are like, there may be a chance when all of this is over, but when he finds out that she's been killing people and that she's willing to kill the Joker, he's like, it's too far gone. It's like over with. Like, that's the thing that allows Batman to stay with Catwoman. Catwoman at least isn't a murderer. She's a thief. She steals for herself, for orphans and the orphan girls that live by her. She does not kill. And I think that's the reason why Batman can get with Catwoman, because her line, to him, I don't feel like he thinks stealing from the rich is necessarily an offense that wouldn't make him love her. The reasons why he can't fall in love with Talia and with Andrea is because they cross that line and they kill.
Yeah, it's too much for him. I mean, Selena Kyle's kind of like a Robin Hood type character where she does bad things but with good intentions.
She's almost anti-hero-esque.
Yeah, so he can kind of stomach some of that
That
stuff that she does.
he can't stomach murder. Like once you murder, it's over with. That's why him and Talia never work out, and he was shocked that he had Damian Wayne. But that's a different conversation for another time. But
yeah, stop ruining the show for me, son of a bitch.
No, that's not even in the show.
No,
that's not
in the show.
That's not the show. That's just comics. That's comics lore. The next thing I have is after that, Batman and Joker fight. The place starts to explode, and Joker is like, cool, this is what I want. I'm ready to die. He starts laughing, and I thought that was amazing. And then Andrea takes him and disappears. She then she leaves with Joker. She survives, gives Bruce the necklace. Does Joker die? I don't think he does.
I don't think so. If this is the Batman Begins story. Like if this is I guess it depends on where the modern day, because like we have the flashbacks.
The flashbacks, the Batman Begins, on
where the modern day story is.
Well, I can answer that because Joker shows up in Justice League, so he's not dead. Yeah, she was right. Joker shows up later, so he's not dead. How does Joker escape then? That's just my biggest. How does he escape from that bitch, or does she let him go?
Well, she probably lets him go. I mean,
or does she turn him into the police? What do y'all think Andrea Beaumont does with Joker?
He gets away. He always gets away.
Crazy.
Well, she probably, took Batman's, advice or, pleas to heart and was like, damn, maybe I shouldn't kill this guy. Maybe vengeance isn't the answer.
Isn't the way. True. And lets him go, because she does give him the pendant back that he gave her because she is done messing with his heart, and she gets on that ship and she's like, I'm going away, but she still loves him, but she just knows it could never work out because he looks at her differently now. And that's pretty much the end of the movie. Any thoughts on these final scenes before we get to the other categories?
A couple of good quotes near the end, like when they're fighting with Joker, Batman's like, your father's dead, isn't he? You came into town early, get Chucky's soul so you could blame it on your father if you had to. And she's like, they took everything, my dad, my life. I'm not saying it's right or even sane, but it's all I've got left, so either help me or get out of the way. Batman's like, I can't do that. She's like, look what they did to us, look what we have could have had. They had to pay.
They didn't wait, that's something. They didn't take Bruce from you. You did that.
You did, yeah.
You did.
Like, but Andy, what will vengeance solve? And he's like, or she's like, if anyone knows the answer to that, Bruce, it's you. Which ends up going to like the final thing with him and Alfred. It's like, I couldn't save her. It's like, I don't think she wanted to be saved. Vengeance blackens the soul. I always feared that you would become that which you fought against. You walk the edge of the abyss every night, but you haven't fallen in. And I thank heaven for that. But Andrea fell into that pit years ago.
Yep. And I think that's why that quote is why I have the big, and everybody's like, and we'll talk about this in a little bit when we talk about the best Batman. But that's my biggest issue with Ben Affleck's Batman. And everybody's like, you can have a Batman that kills. No, you can't. That takes away from the essence of the character. That takes away from what he is. Because if Batman kills, then he's just Deathstroke. Then he's just any of these vigilantes that do it. The thing that makes Batman so great is that he toes that line and never goes into the abyss of vengeance. And that's why Ben Affleck's Batman did not work for me comic book wise. I thought looks wise, action wise, he's great. But the fact that he was a killer and a killer for multiple years as an old man, Bruce Wayne would never do that. And I think that quote at the end, Schubert, perfectly encompassed is why Batman should never kill.
Well, and if you're Batman and you start killing people, then you've lost. Like the promise that he made to his parents, I'm assuming they never come right out and say it.
It's to make Gotham a better place. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if he becomes a killer, then he's no better than the guy who shot
killed his parents. Yep.
For the necklace and the wallet. Yep. And that's the last thing he wants to become. So
he's not judge, jury, and executioner. His job is to bring justice, and bringing justice does not equate to killing someone. You are not the person that determines the person's sentence. Your job is just to bring them to face said sentence, to bring them to justice. And I know people say, well, the police are corrupt, the judges are corrupt. Batman's like, I understand all of that, and that's why I'm going to continue to fight, to continue to show the fallacies of what these people do. and that's all he can do. The moment he starts killing, again, what's to stop him from killing a corrupt DA? What's to stop him from killing? Batman would just go on a random killing spree and go crazy because his mental health, he is in question. And in this movie, they don't come out right and say it, but Batman has mental health issues in this movie. Batman is suicidal. Batman is depressed. Like, all of these things are in there. They just don't come out right and say it. And if he kills and crosses that line, all of that shit starts to come out, and it comes out in the worst of ways.
Yeah, I mean, he's no different than the Joker at that point.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Great. Love that conversation. That was awesome. All right, let's jump to the things of who won, who lost, six man of the movie. Let's start with who won the movie, because I think that's easier than some of the other stuff. You think it's harder? All right. Who do y'all have as some of the people that have won? Here are some of my, as we always do, I give y'all some of the people I'm thinking, and then I decide after y'all talk it through with me. But I think Alfred has to be one of the people who won. I think Jim Gordon has to be one of the people who won because he didn't have to do nothing. Jim Gordon was like, fuck y'all. I trust Batman.
I subscribe to that one. That was what I was thinking.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Jim Gordon. Does Batman win?
No,
Okay,
absolutely not.
Okay, Batman's a loser in this. Does none of the gangsters win?
No, they all die.
Joker wins because he's not dead.
Does Joker win?
But I mean, he doesn't.
He doesn't
I mean,
lose.
he definitely doesn't lose.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess he loses in the sense that he doesn't kill Batman or Andrea, which is kind of his goal the whole time.
So is this one of those where I'm going to give it to the people who made the film? Is Bruce Timm and Paul Dini the big winners of this movie?
Well, I mean, that's what you always do. So I was expecting, Mark Hamill wins this one because of his great performance as the Joker.
Mark Hamill is one of the potentials. If I'm going to a character, I'm giving it to Jim Gordon. But I think more so than Mark Hamill, it's Paul Dini and Bruce Timm. I think that's who win. The people who created Batman the Animated Series and now are the most legendary superhero creative cartoon people ever. So my winner is Bruce Timm and Paul Dini. That's where I'm going.
I'm not gonna let you get away with Commissioner Gordon being the winner for being in about 30 seconds of this.
He's like, fuck this! I'm too old for this. Like,
That's what I was gonna choose.
Like, y'all don't want to listen
Jim Gordon.
Exactly. Fuck that councilman. You wanna think Batman's evil? You wanna do all this? Get Joker tear gas, motherfucker. Surprise, motherfucker. These fries, motherfucker. Them thighs. Y'all ever seen that video?
Wrong size, motherfucker.
Yes, Ian, yes. So, okay, Ian, if it's not Jim Gordon, who do you think won that's not outside the movie, not the creators?
Well, let's just go down the list. Batman doesn't win because he loses his love interest. Andrea Beaumont doesn't win because she realizes she's a horrible person and doesn't get her love interest.
The father doesn't win because he's dead.
He dies.
Arthur Reeves gets Joker gassed.
He gets Joker gassed, and we don't hear from him again. None of the mobsters win because one of them becomes the Joker, and
I got a good one. Die. Does Gotham win? The city of Gotham.
Let me say, throw up.
Let me explain why. You lose the mobsters, you lose a corrupt councilman, and you have your protector of Batman. Does Gotham win? It's cleaner than it was at the start of this movie. Joker's missing in action. I'm just saying, if you don't want someone outside of the movie, if you want me to get deep with it, that's a character.
No winner.
Oh, you subscribe to no winner.
I'm saying there's no winner because Detective Bullock sure as hell doesn't win. He looks like an asshat.
He looks like a douche.
Does.
Bullock.
Commissioner Gordon just kind of fucks off and then
don't say he fucks off. He doesn't fuck off.
He does. What is he doesn't not fuck off?
He says, he doesn't get involved with the cops because they're all
because they're listening to the councilman and not listening to him. He's like, fuck y'all.
Yeah. Okay. And then he fucks off.
So pick. Y'all have to pick a winner. I'm making y'all either go. You pick Gordon. Why don't you go outside the movie itself and pick like one of the creators?
Don't influence me.
Because
don't tell me how to live my life.
Mark Hamill could be a winner of this.
Well, how does he win? He just comes in and reprises his role as
the Joker and kills it. He gives one of the best Joker performances ever.
I hate this. There's no winner here.
So you're saying no winner, Ian. I'm saying Bruce Timm and Paul Dini. Schubert, who are you saying?
I'll go with no winner or Gordon. I mean,
all right, you're going with Gordon. I like it. I like it, Shuby. All right.
I mean, I was at least happy that he did what he did. So
same. All right, let's get to the big one. Who
No, because
lost?
he. Oh,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Gordon doesn't win either. He's just a bitch in this movie. He could have. He could have helped Batman. He could
He
have done
couldn't.
Batman don't need his
some
help.
He
some
couldn't because he had
classic
to
Gordon
listen.
shit.
Because you got to think that the city council was influencing the mayor, and it was like, and Jim was like, "I'm stepping out of this," and the mayor was like, "All right, Jim, you can step out of this. You don't
The
have to get
police are
involved in this."
supposed to be independent from the city council.
Supposed to, but this is Gotham.
The series that does the best job of describing the Bruce Wayne Jim Gordon relationship is Harley Quinn, because if Gordon showed up to Batman and was like, "Let me help you, bro," he'd be like, "Get out of here, Gordon."
But that's what he does the whole
Don't
series.
do that. That Harley Quinn makes so much fun of Jim Gordon. Jim Gordon's much better than that, man. Don't do that, Schubert.
They're constantly. He's giving him information that the police have that Batman
Yep.
could use. That's
Jim
helpful.
Gordon's
He didn't do
Batman's
any of that
best-
shit this movie.
Jim Gordon is Batman's second best ally. Third best ally. I think Batman's first best ally is Alfred, of course, number one. Number two is Dick Grayson. And number three is Jim Gordon.
All right,
Fair enough.
You could even argue Jim Gordon's over Dick Grayson, but I'm not going to do that.
He's more
He's there
constant.
longer.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So I like Schubert that you went with Jim Gordon one. Like I said, I'm going Paul Dini, Bruce Timm, Ian. No winners, since he doesn't
No
accept
winners.
the theory of Gotham is a winner. I really like that. All right, let's go to who lost. Y'all are gonna hate me for sixth man of the movie. I'm letting y'all know now. But who lost the movie? Who's the biggest loser? Is it Batman?
No, it's probably Andrea Beaumont.
Yeah, her father dies. She
Okay.
realizes she's a terrible person.
She loses the love of her
she
life.
doesn't marry the love of her life.
True.
That's pretty rough.
True. Is Arthur now? Let me pitch for Arthur being the biggest loser. He's a snitch. Snitched on.
You were just pitching Arthur being the winner.
No, I didn't pitch Arthur as a winner. I pitched Jim Gordon as a winner. I never said Arthur won. Arthur, big loser. He snitched on Beaumont. He lost his city councilman job. He got simped out because Andrea Beaumont always chose Bruce Wayne over him, and he was a simp bitch. And then he get Joker gassed. Like, that's loser DNA right there. Big loser vibes.
No, that's a fair one.
Fair enough. I'm not mad at it. I'm
Are
much
any
less
of the
mad at it than
mobsters
Gotham being the winner?
are any of the mobsters a bigger loser than Arthur or Andrea?
No,
I mean, they all
those are-
die. So
Yeah, they all
I wouldn't
die.
be mad at that argument either.
Andrea Beaumont's father, I would say, is third, because not only does he die, he dies being a scumbag, and his daughter views him as the worst person. She took his daughter away from the love of her life, and he had to live on the run for the rest of his life. He has to be up there as one of the biggest losers.
Yeah.
So, Ian, who you going
Yeah,
with?
she even
Consideration.
Andrea even says at one point, he's like, it's going to come down between me and your dad, and she's like, oh, he doesn't matter to me anymore.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's pretty rough coming from your daughter.
So who you giving it to? Biggest loser, Ian. Who you got? Since I'm always picking the wrong ones, let's go to you first.
As much as I want to say Andrea, it's probably Batman.
See, now you getting Gotham themey on me, because Batman.
Throughout this entire movie, he's only trying to do the right thing, whether it be by his parents or by Andrea or even by himself. He's
shit on.
He's thinking, what is going to make me the most happy? I still have to think about my life and what it's going to look like in this scenario. And I'm being torn between two separate, paths here. And he tries to pick her and it doesn't work out. And then he tries to pick Batman and she comes back in and kind of rips him away from it again. And then he realizes that she is now the villain that he's been chasing after
He
the
can't save
entire
her.
time. And he can't save her. So that's just tough. Andrea was already corrupted by the time she came back as the Phantasm. So she didn't necessarily lose because she was already kind of fucked up.
But if you take it in the whole, if you take it as a whole, she does lose though. If you look at it from the whole perspective.
I mean, she doesn't accomplish her goal of revenge against the Joker.
She loses her father
back.
She doesn't get Batman back. Yep. So, but you're
But
going
I'm
with
still
Batman.
saying Batman.
You're going with Batman. I'm not mad at that. I like that. I like that because you know me. I like the Gotham theory of winning. That's deep to me. I'm not mad at Batman being the loser. But I'm not going with Batman. But I love that that's your choice. Schubert, who you got?
Andrea Beaumont.
I'm going with Arthur. Big simp energy. We don't reward simps. We don't reward snitching. And dude got Joker gas. You lost your councilman job, and she never loved you. She always loved Batman. You big simp. L's. Watch the L's move.
That's fair.
Shout out to Absol. But yeah, no, I'm going with Arthur. Schubert's going with Andrea Beaumont. Ian's going with Batman. I'm gonna be honest, Schubert. I like me and Ian's more than yours. Even though Andrea Beaumont's the outright loser, I like how Ian explained Batman. Ian came with it with that one. I gotta give him prompts. But not mad at your Andrea Beaumont. Y'all let us know in the comments who had the best winner. Is it me with Paul Dini, Bruce Timm? Is it Ian with no one? Is it Schubert with Jim Gordon? Who had the best loser? Is it Ian with Batman? Is it me with Arthur Reeves? Or is it Schubert with Andrea Beaumont? Now, this is the one that I know Ian's gonna fuss about. Six man of the movie. There's only one. There's only one. And if y'all argue with me, we're gonna just argue. Joker is not a starter in this movie. He's not. Joker is not.
So then who's your starting five?
Batman, Andrea Beaumont.
If you say Arthur Reeves over the Joker, I'm gonna fucking end the
Arthur
Zoom
Reeves
call right
has
now.
to be a starter.
I mean, he's a starter.
He's a starter.
How is he the simp side bitch and he's still a starter?
Well,
you can't be a loser and be the simp side bitch and
you got to be a starter. He's one of the main people in the movie. I'd say the mob as a whole is a starter.
Jesus Christ!
All right, is Joker a starter then? Is that what y'all
We've
get
got
at?
Gotham.
Yeah,
we've got the entire fucking
all
city of Gotham as the winner, and we've got all of the mob as one of the starting five. Even though two of them die immediately in their scenes within 30 seconds of their introduction. And the third one, he gets one scene where he's in the car and he's wheezing on the oxygen the whole time. And the next one, they pull the mask off and he's already fucking dead. And then his body, he doesn't even get a proper burial. His body is just blown to bits by the Joker's
he has a
bomb.
whole ass scene with Joker.
And the impact of the mob is felt throughout the entire movie. I'll give you Joker's a starter, but the mob's a starter too. That's fine. Joker could be a starter. Joker could be a starter. Six man's Alfred.
Well, no. Finish your five. Finish your five.
Six man is
Who's
Alfred. I don't know who the fifth is then, but I know for sure Alfred's the best six man then of this movie. Alfred has to be. Or is he a starter?
I mean, I think he's more of a six man than Joker.
All right.
I was going to say Alfred.
All right. Well, then the starters, Andrea, Batman, Joker, the mob. And that's it. That's the starters. Oh, and Arthur Reeves. Those are the starters. I'm with you, Schubert. Alfred's the six man. Great quips, hilarious. And everything that he said to Batman was impactful, whether it was a joke or the final quote.
Yeah, I mean, the final quote and like a lot of things that he says throughout kind of
resonate.
Drive home the ending themes of the point of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Of the connection between Bruce Wayne and Batman.
Yep. All right, Ian, who do you have as six man then?
Well, I would say the starting five are probably Batman, Andrea, Arthur, the Joker, and then Sal, if you want to include, anyone from the mob.
Okay,
because he kind of brings the Joker into it.
He does.
He's the main guy.
Yeah, so that way you could still have Alfred as the sixth man.
Okay.
I think while Sal's role may be more short-lived than Alfred as far as total amount of time spent on the screen,
his impact is more than Alfred's though on the screen.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, he's the, boss of bosses, if you will.
The true villain of this movie.
I would say the Joker's the true villain of this movie.
Lou, let's do this. I'm going to argue it's Sal because Sal puts Joker on this path. Sal sends Joker to kill Beaumont. Listen, Sal sends Joker to kill Beaumont. Sal makes him a hitman, and then Sal brings him into the story. Sal brings him to kill Batman, thus in getting him involved with Andrea Beaumont. Again, Sal is the ultimate villain. Joker is like the main villain,
but he didn't create Joker though.
I'm not gonna say he assisted in creating him. He was Chris Paul to the vat of Ace Chemicals, DeAndre Ayton catching a lob.
I know you're wrong, but I can't think of how to explain to you why you're wrong. And that's making me even more frustrated than I already am with this argument.
We don't have to stay on this, but I'm just saying, I think Sal Definitely. Okay, if we're gonna say Joker's the ultimate
How is
villain,
Sal the villain of this? The
let,
movie is called Mask of the Phantasm, and we've got the Joker on screen for a half hour.
Sal kills Andrea Beaumont's father, sends and makes Andrea Beaumont's father go run across the earth, and does all this stuff to Andrea and Bruce. He's got to be the ultimate villain, the ultimate. Even though Joker is 100% the main antagonist of this movie, but to me, the underlying, like, the man behind the curtain is Sal.
So the Joker is the main antagonist, but he's not the main villain?
He's the main, like I said, Joker's the main guy. Sal's the dude behind the curtain.
I'll say Sal is the catalyst, but I'm not going to call him the main villain.
All right, I'll accept that. I'll change mine to the catalyst. All right, that's fair.
If you're the main villain, you don't go get another villain to do your dirty work for you. I don't care how
He's
old
an old man.
He's got an oxygen chain.
Like you said, dude was wheezing in the car, and Arthur Reeves was like, "Get your death away from me." He was like, "You're about to die."
It was COVID before COVID in
Real
that car.
shit. Real shit. Okay, so
it's not very healthy in here.
So Ian, who's your sixth man? Who'd you go with? You went with Alfred too?
I'm going with Alfred too.
All right, so all of us are going with Alfred. Alfred just killed it in this movie, man. 100%. Okay, so we answered all of who won, who lost. We did our Are We Sures. We did the thing. So let's talk about what makes a great Batman movie, and is this the best Batman? Do y'all think? I'll start with you, Ian.
Of all of the different iterations of Batman?
Yeah, in terms of like movie Batman. We're not going to go into TV. We're not going to comics, but in terms of movie Batman, I say this is one. The other movies would include, I mean, you haven't seen all the animated movies, so you don't have to talk about them, but
it's the best one.
George Clooney, Val Kilmer, Ben Affleck, Christian Bale, Adam West, we can count, whatever, and then this one.
A lot of those other ones, the older ones, are too campy for me.
Even
Keaton?
more so Kilmer and Clooney, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Keaton.
Them too. I mean, really, the Christopher Nolan, I feel like, is kind of the bar of the live action movies. But this one, it definitely has its own appeal. You know, I mean, even though it's oriented for kids, it still tells a really compelling story. And like you say, it's not just focused around the action sequences. It's much more of a reflection on who these characters are as people, rather than just like, okay, who's the stronger guy or who's the more, cunning. Not only do you see Batman's origin story, but you get a lot of Joker's origin as well, with the way that they tie it together between, okay, Joker used to just be this, kind of low-level henchman guy, and now they don't really show you his turning point necessarily, but now 10 years later, he's really grown into his own as this criminal mastermind.
He tells Sal, he's like, I'm the boss now.
And I think that's why it was so important having that scene in there of like when they make the screen red, like Joker's like, I'm no longer your bitch boy, Sal. Like, you coming to me, Paisan.
Mm-hmm. So I still think I like the Christopher Nolan series better, because that one feels the most like, if you think of Batman, what they're going for with the story in general is like, okay, yes, this guy is like super smart and super rich, but he's also the most relatable superhero. And with the Christopher Nolan series, you really feel like, okay, yeah, this guy has all the money in the world and he's got like a multi-billion-dollar company that he controls, but he doesn't really give a shit about all that. Like, he's just out to, figure out where his own place in the world is and, ensure his own sense of self-worth, while also like being a positive contribution to the world. So I feel like that Batman is the most, relatable, in touch version that I've seen. I haven't seen all of the older Batman movies, but like I say, some of the older ones that I have seen are really campy. So it's kind of hard to.
They're definitely more about boom pow. Not
exactly.
Those movies
maybe
aren't.
At the time they were, monumental, and people going to watch them in theaters at the time were like, wow, this is amazing. But just with some of the newer iterations, this animated movie included, it feels more like cartoony than even this cartoon itself.
That's a fact. And
Yeah.
that's why I'm going with this one. The fact that this was made in 1993, and like we said, we see Batman go through depression, we see Batman go through loss, we see Batman go through just all these different forms of suicidal tendencies. We see all these things of impact and relatability to this Batman. That's why I have to go with this one. And if anything, I think Matt Reeves has a chance to be the best, because rumors are that Matt Reeves is touching into Batman has mental health issues like this. Batman wants to die. There's situations where we see in this movie that I think are going to be in the Matt Reeveses, and the fact that we see him actually be a detective, I think this has to be the best Batman. Whereas Nolan, I agree with you. Nolan's works because it is more down to earth. It is relatable, but I still think Nolan's movie could work if you take away the name Batman, you take away the name Joker, and you make him a secret agent. With this, if you take away the name Batman, I don't know if this works.
I
Fair enough.
disagree. I would say, and I saw a quote of this about this movie. Mask of the Phantasm is not a Batman movie that happens to have a grown-up noir leaning theme. It's an explicitly grown-up noir that happens to have Batman leaning themes. And so, like, that's where I feel like with this, when you think of Mask of the Phantasm, it really goes into the complex characterization of the protagonist of Batman. It doesn't shy away from the idea of Batman something tragic, and well, it doesn't shy away from the idea of Batman being something tragic and it's awful to be. What Christopher Nolan did a really good job of, and what this does as well, is that it's a story that views becoming Batman not as something noble, but as something deeply tragic.
Yeah. I think that's something they both do very well.
So like that's really why this kind of really hits home as a great Batman movie, because it really doesn't, and it also, because it's the most complete take on Batman and Bruce Wayne, or them together as one person on film.
And more so of how Bruce Wayne is the mask. Like, this movie really goes into, and like I said, I think Bruce Wayne dies when Andrea Beaumont's like, I'm leaving you, and he puts on that mask. And I agree with everything you just said, Schubert, except the first part, because I do think this movie is a noir movie that has Batman themes, but I think that at its core is Batman. At its core, everything that this movie does is who Batman is in the comics and what they intended Batman to be. That's why I don't think if you take away the Batman elements of this movie can work. You would have to make him more of a I can't think of his name right now, but more of a Henry Beauregard. Is it Henry Beauregard? Whatever the old actor is who's in Maltese Falcon. You'd have to make it more like that. But intrinsically, Humphrey Bogart. There we go. Intrinsically, everything about this movie is Batman. And to me, going forward, and I want to know what you guys think, going forward in the new Batman movies, I need more of these introspective things about how it's not great to be Batman. We see Batman struggling with the idea of his sanity. I want to see less action, more detective work. I need more gadgetry. I think, if anything, this movie lacked gadgetry, which it could have used a little bit more of. I think this movie could have used a little more action, but the way that they told the story, it just worked really well. So in the future, Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson, if you can have the action as well as the detective intrinsic look at who Batman is, I think that movie is successful.
Yeah, I mean, instead of glorifying Batman or the life that Batman leads, like a lot of those older movies do, where, you know, he swoops into the room and he stands with his hands on his hips and they go, dun, 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 dun. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Look at his amazing car. Look at all of these amazing things. The bat nipples. And it's like, no, bro, that's not what Batman is.
Exactly. Well, and I think that's why, not to always go back to The Sopranos, but the reason that The Sopranos was so good and was able to run for so many seasons is because it's not a movie that's just like, oh yeah, look at us, we're dope, we're in the mob, we're killing people and selling drugs and shit like that. It's like, okay, no, this is a real introspective on what it would be like to Tony Soprano, the head of the mob.
That's why
Like the
Goodfellas
scenes
works so well.
The scenes with him in therapy where he's talking to Dr. Melfi and really explaining like how he feels in a lot of these situations where, you know, he's got to put on the machismo, or, you know, he's got to deal with family issues and still try and maintain the balance between being a member of his family and also being
a
the
member of his
boss of a
family.
criminal organization. Like that's why that was so compelling to me. And that's why this movie, over, you know, like I say, some of the episodes that I've seen so far of the animated series, that's why this movie really stuck out to me. Is just like, okay, we're not just doing the surface level stuff of like Batman has a new, you know, enemy in this episode and he solves the crime or whatever the case may be. We're really getting a look at who Batman is as a person and what it would be like to have to live that double life and deal with the loss of your parents. And not only that, but make that your whole life's purpose. You know, he chooses to dwell on the depressing parts of his life rather than trying to move on and, you know, forget about it or become something different.
Yep. And I think the scene, real quick, I just think the scene that encapsulates that the best, which you just said, Ian, was when Batman's sitting on top, spying on Arthur and Andrea, and we see the rain coming down on his face where it looks like he's crying, and we go into that flashback of him reminiscing on the love and how he had to choose Batman over her. Go ahead, Schubert.
Well, what I think, like, and this is even a knock on the Nolan trilogy, I feel like they don't do as successfully as the series does. And, you know, there isn't a lot of movie iterations. You know, we've talked about before that maybe Ben Affleck is the best Bruce Wayne, but it's the series really gives you the idea that Bruce Wayne is not more of a cover than the person. Because, like, I feel like with the Nolan trilogy, Bruce Wayne, the scenes with Bruce Wayne are kind of like, oh, he's a millionaire playboy, he's this kind of like a cover to what Batman is. And it's more so like with that trilogy, like Batman oriented things instead of like Bruce Wayne being Bruce Wayne and Batman at the same time, and like having to deal with Bruce Wayne things and also Batman things. That's what the series does so well. It's like, you know, there'll be some episodes of the series where a lot of the detectiving that Batman does is Bruce Wayne.
And that goes to the point of, is Bruce Wayne does he want to be Bruce Wayne, or at his core, is he Batman? And I think that's what the series does really well, which you're talking about, where we see, yes, he's Bruce Wayne, but Bruce Wayne at his core is Batman. And that's why it doesn't matter whether the suit's on or not, he's Batman all the time. Bruce, when he's around other people, is just Bruce Wayne is this persona, but at his core, whether he's detectiving, whether he's wearing the suit, at the end of the day, he's Batman through and through. The only time we truly see the persona is when he's around other people.
And that's my question about Batman as a character in general. Like, yes, he's doing great things for the city of Gotham, but don't you think his parents would be disappointed that he's just like totally soiling their public name by being this like asshole millionaire guy as the like, I get that he has to be that guy in public to have people not suspect him to also be this like outstanding, you know, vigilante character. But like, wouldn't his parents still kind of be upset? Like, okay, guy,
that's a great question.
Like my whole life.
I would say wait till you watch more of the series.
And also, I think this is the issue with a lot of the movies. Where Schubert says wait till you watch some of the series. The movies give you, oh, he's this persona and that's it. The movies don't, whereas the series gives you that persona at first, but then you see, oh, I'm gonna hire Leslie Tompkins to run mental health facilities all across Gotham. This is comic stuff. It doesn't even matter about this. I'm gonna make a train that can bring poor people to their work for free. I'm gonna open up YMCMAs. I'm gonna open up public facilities for kids to get studying done. Like
the Wayne Foundation becomes a big part of him.
Yeah, and the Wayne Foundation does so much, whether it's hospitals, whether it's hospice, whether it's mental health stuff, whether it's after school activities. I think that's what the movies end up missing, because the common thing on Twitter is, oh, Batman just beats up a bunch of mentally ill people, puts them in jail, and lives his rich life. And he doesn't actually truly help Gotham's. No, that's not the case. Batman, majority of his money is spent on helping Gotham more so than himself. Batman makes this money to help Gotham. It's not to help himself. All of the money he uses, like Schubert says, is for the Wayne Foundation for him to donate to people. Gotham would be a lot worse off if Batman wasn't there. It might be a city that has a Detroit-like collapse.
All right, you just have to go below the belt with that one.
That's the only city I could think of that collapsed like that. Or you can even say New Orleans like collapsed. But I think Batman is so crucial and Bruce Wayne does so much. That's why Gotham is even running halfway decent. Like without him, it would be a cesspool of corruption with no one there to help.
Does the auto industry collapse in the Batman universe, or is that not a thing that Bruce Wayne lets happen?
I don't know. I don't really know, actually. I'm not too sure.
Single-handedly helps the auto industry by buying brand new Batmobiles every time it breaks them.
Becomes the new owner of Ford, Chevy, and GM.
And it's just Wayne. But that's pretty much all we got. Let's get to the rating. I'm going to tell y'all what I rated this on Letterboxd because this is a high rating for me, and
that's out of 5 on Letterboxd.
Yeah, no, we do out of 10. So on Letterboxd, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. Like it is high for me. So let's get to
That's
it.
high for Letterboxd.
That is high for Letterboxd, but I got some 5s. I got some 5s though. I don't lie on Letterboxd. I keep it a bean. So all right, I'll start with you, Schubert, since I started with Ian for a lot of this. Schubert, what you rating it 1 through 10?
10. I think it's a solid. I think it's a solid 9.
All right. Ian, what you giving it?
See, I feel like I'm going to be unfair to this movie because it's a kids movie and it doesn't have some of the same, like literary devices, if you will, that some of the other movies are able to employ because they can take on some of those adult elements.
But see, do you not wait real quick before you give your rating? Do you not give it a added plus because it's a kids movie, but it ignores that and mask some of the deeper themes in this? Like I understand what you're saying, but I think those things are there. For example, like when we talk about the suicide, the depression, the mental health stuff, all of the loss and everything, I think it's there. It's just hidden very well.
Yeah, no, they did their best to incorporate those themes without making it like super messed up for a kid to go watch and like have nightmares at night. So I would say I'm gonna go 8.6 on this one.
That's fair. That is fair. I was expecting I was gonna say if y'all did anything lower than 8.5, y'all are clowning. I'm going with Schubert. I'm going 9. So let's see where this falls in the
eight,
run it back.
8.75.
8 points. All right, wait, hold on. 8.6 plus 9 divided by 3. It's 8.86 repeating. So the run it back score is a solid. I'm not gonna round up. It's just a solid 8.8, which I think is super fair for this movie. It does not dethrone the run it back king. The run it back comedy king right now is super bad. The run it back drama theme, the run it back overall drama movie is, I think, Godfather is still number 1. I think Godfather is number 1 with like a 9.2 or 9.3 or something like that. And Goodfellas and this movie are actually like second. And then Pulp Fiction, which is crazy. We're gonna have to redo Pulp Fiction again at some point because I think y'all really made me rank Pulp Fiction 8.5. Like y'all are crazy, like crazy for that one. But all right, yeah, fellas, run it back. Where are we going next? What y'all thinking? Like before I make y'all give y'all socials out, because some people were like, we need to do another DC animated movie. We will do one, but I don't think like right away.
It's pretty easy to do because they're short.
That's why you love doing. That's why you're okay with it because they're short. But I think we should go to another either big director, rom-com, maybe horror movie, maybe.
Should we do Michael Bay movies?
Oh God.
Just Transformers.
God, I'm gonna give those movies. We do. I will say this: at some point, we need to do the shitty run it back, where we bring in a shitty movie and we just shit on it. Like I think there could be some comedy there to the trash it back.
How about Steven Spielberg?
Ooh, we could go into
forget him in the names of big directors.
Directors, we do. Okay.
Directors.
Let's do it, and we could have that conversation then of Steven Spielberg's he is definitely, not arguably, one of the best 5 directors of our lifetime, but the reason why he's not mentioned is because of his blockbuster appeal. his appeal of not going. He has the same issues that Tom Hanks has, where Tom Hanks does a lot of good guy roles. Steven Spielberg doesn't make non-feel good movies. The only one he has that's not a feel good is Schindler's List.
Does not feel good.
Wait,
That's a bad, like that's a not feel good. That's like a negative, like that's a dark movie. Schindler's
The
List is
only
not
one?
happy.
The only one?
Oh, in the war movie that he did, Saving Private Ryan. Those are the two.
Okay. I mean, there's some other ones that have some that get pretty
Which
dark.
ones? Which ones?
Doesn't Munich get pretty dark?
Oh, he did do Munich.
Doesn't War Horse gets pretty dark at times.
War Horse is a happy movie.
Ain't that happy?
It's about a horse.
should we do horse movies?
No.
Secretariat, War Horse.
Marley and Me.
What about Jaws? What about Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
Jaws
Marley
is
is not a
isn't
horse.
Jaws isn't a
What about-
bad movie.
What about Empire of the Sun?
Those are dark movies. Close
They're dark.
Encounters
Isn't
of the
there like
Third.
a
Close Encounters of the Third Kind is so happy where they're playing those synths to talk to the aliens. Like what? But Steven Spielberg is one we can do. Let's see real quick. We're gonna talk
The
about
Color
this.
Purple?
That's not. I'm not putting that on that fucking list. I hate that fucking movie. All right. So Spielberg, when we talk about it, when we put him on the list, can I put Back to the Future on there because he produces it? 'Cause he's a
No,
part of the. No, she was like, no.
that's Zemeckis.
I know that's a
Okay.
Zemeckis film, but Steven
You can't
Spielberg.
do that to that man.
Steven Spielberg's so responsible for why it's made.
But there's so many other Steven Spielberg movies.
True. I just wanted to put it on there because I wanted to review Back to the Future. That's the only reason why. I love that fucking movie.
unbelievable, this guy.
All right, so I'm thinking I think we put on the list to and we'll talk more about this, but just to give people an idea, I think Jurassic Park has to be on the voting list, the first one. I think one of the Indiana Joneses has to be on that list. No? So what's on the list if we're doing Spielberg then,
I
sir?
would rather not even do the franchises. I'd do like
Mm.
AI, artificial intelligence, Minority Report, Catch Me If You Can. We talked about. I mean, you could do Schindler's List or Munich. Even though they're
God.
super dark. I mean,
All right, so Minority Report, you're saying Catch Me If You Can. Ian, what are you saying?
I guess you could do Jurassic Park because I mean he only did Jurassic Park and then Lost World, which you can barely count.
Jaws might have to be on there, or E.T., one of them.
Yeah.
Either or both.
Okay. All right. And Schubert, when you Google Steven Spielberg and you click movies, Back to the Future is on there because he produced it. I told you, boy.
Wait, he's directing a new version of West Side Story coming
Yeah,
out
he
this
is.
year?
Coming out this.
Yeah, it's coming
summer,
out this year. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So all right.
Um,
Yeah, we'll do Spielberg next. That's cool. We can
Yeah, I
definitely do
mean
Spielberg
picking
next.
4 is difficult though. We'll
If
have to
Saving
keep
Private
working on
Ryan is
it.
not on the list, I'm going to be upset.
All right. Well,
Yeah, because I mean, I
that'll
think
be
that
on
one
there.
probably needs to get on the list.
Okay.
Like, I feel like we should probably go decades. Like you should probably get an 80s
One
one,
from
you
each
should probably
decade?
get a 90s one, probably get a 2000s and you could consider throwing in Ready Player One or Lincoln if you want.
I just watched Ready Player One. That movie is underrated and people don't give it enough love. That movie's great.
It's a great movie. I mean,
That movie's
make
great.
a sequel.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm thinking we'll do Saving Private Ryan, Minority Report, Catch Me If You Can, and
War of the
then
Worlds.
I think Jaws has to be on there.
Or
And we're
Jurassic
not
Park.
including Schindler's List?
I just don't want to get sad. Like if y'all want to get sad, we can. Like I'm just not
I
trying to
think
get
I
sad.
think including Jurassic Park. Now that I'm going back, it's not that bad. I mean, it's just hard because it's a franchise.
It has
but-
to be. Look, one of them. I'll let y'all choose, but one of the spots has to be either E.T., Jaws, Jurassic Park. It has to be one of those three.
I mean, I'm
And
in
we'll
a
talk-
Jurassic Park bag right now.
We'll
'cause of
talk
that.
more about that later, like
TV
off
show.
air. This is just for the people to get ready. Y'all start thinking about what Steven Spielberg movies y'all like. Tweet at us which ones you want us to review. If you want us to review Schindler's List and we get a bunch of people saying y'all gotta review Schindler's List, then we'll fucking do it. But if y'all don't say that,
Might
I'm
have
not
to
putting
ask
that.
the Discord.
I'm not putting that on the poll. And speaking of the Discord, join the Discord, link in the bio to come discuss which movies we're doing next. But I like that Ian said Spielberg. We'll definitely talk about that. If it's not Spielberg, then I don't know what the fuck we're going to do. It'll probably be Spielberg because we haven't did it yet.
Oh, we're forgetting Daniel Day-Lewis as Lincoln too?
I said Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Or if we don't want to do Spielberg, we can go to Paul Thomas Anderson. PTA, baby. Boogie Nights, There Will Be Blood, The Master, and Magnolia. I gave you the 4. That would be the 4 right there if we did PTA.
That's fine with me.
Oh, all right.
Not Inherent Vice.
The Boogie Nights.
Boogie Nights. It'll have to be Boogie Nights. There Will Be Blood. Fucking The Master with Joaquin Phoenix and Magnolia.
Yeah, I'm
actually down to do PTA more than fucking Spielberg. So we'll put a poll in the Discord to see whether we do Spielberg or PTA. But I would not be mad if Boogie Nights won because there would be a lot of jokes from us with that. There Will Be Blood would be a lot of jokes. I'm saving my son. Like Daniel Day-Lewis goes crazy. Fucking The Master would be nuts.
I'm into that because like I have The Master and There Will Be Blood like sitting on my queue to watch.
The Master's incredible. So. Seeing Joaquin Phoenix do all that body shit he be doing is wild. And you get a great Philip Seymour Hoffman performance. And then Magnolia, great Tom Cruise. So, all right, cool. We'll either do PTA or Spielberg, one of the two. So, all right. And then we'll do the other one after. And I'm excited. We got a lot of good running back coming. I know we're going to do a Wes Anderson one, which is like Grand Budapest Hotel, Fantastic Fox, like that weird indie comedy bag. And then another director we have to touch is Nolan. We still haven't done a Nolan movie yet.
Yeah, we got a lot of directors to get through.
Mm-hmm. So that'll be the next little run. And maybe we'll throw a rom-com, a horror in there. If we did a rom-com, I'm partial Crazy Stupid Love. Like, love that fucking movie. That to me, that's the best rom-com like I've ever seen. That's my one. So, you know, we'll figure it out. But I'm excited for the next running back. It'll be very soon. Ian, tell the people they can find you at on social media.
Quick question. Are we counting Elf as a rom-com or no?
Oh, no. Christmas movie.
No, I don't think that's a rom-com. Definitely a Christmas movie. You can find me on Twitter at IanBWT. You can find me on Instagram at IanHawley12. And there you can find the links to all of my music. We're also still debating the Bros Who Think group OnlyFans. So potentially there will be a link to that in the link tree as well.
I don't know what he's talking about.
The details.
She was just showing your abs on OnlyFans.
Wait, what? Abs? I don't know. I got dad bod.
Hey, that's the new thing now, man. There's a lot of girls who
am I showing my ass on OnlyFans? Like my fat ass on like, here you go, ladies. Here's this ass.
I'll send some feet pics here and there.
Ian, you can't send feet pics on OnlyFans unless you have cute feet. Are you telling the world you have cute feet?
What are you trying to say, Lyndon?
I'm just asking. If you got ugly, if you have ugly hobbit feet, we're not putting that on our OnlyFans.
Listen, my feet are crust free. My feet they're hairy, but they're tastefully so.
Jeez.
And I keep my toenails trimmed at all times, socks or no socks. So, ladies, if you have some feet pic requests, just slide in my DMs. We don't even have to do the OnlyFans. I'll do it all over Cash App.
Oh, shit. Super, tell the people where they can follow you at on social media.
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ashubert14. And you could check out my letterbox at AdamBWT.
Yep. Ian, you need to make a letterbox, bro. I don't know what you're clowning. Me and Schubert are all on there.
Yeah, right after the OnlyFans is done, then I'll hop on Letterbox.
Most recently on Letterbox, I reviewed Freaky, the Vince Vaughn body swap movie, Memento, talking about Nolan, and I mentioned it earlier on that Ian needed to watch A Time to Kill and Frailty, 2 Matthew McConaughey movies.
I need to go check your reviews out for that. All right. Yeah. Solid. And be sure to check out the latest Bros Who Binge if you have not already. Great episode. We reviewed Loki and Mayor of Easttown.
And I also reviewed Synchronic, the Netflix movie.
Facts. Y'all make sure y'all go follow Schubert on Letterboxd. Make sure you check out the most recent episode of Bros Who Binge. Be sure to check out the most recent episode of the Bros Who Think podcast. If you're a fan of LSU and LSU baseball, LSU sports, prime time is back. They have a new episode out. The latest episode of Anime Talk is out. A bunch of manga content. The YouTube is popping right now. There's a lot of stuff that we dropped this week. So be sure to subscribe to the YouTube or Spotify, wherever you listen to this. Speaking of, I'm going to make a podcast feed for this soon to where it won't be video exclusive anymore, where people can listen to the audio versions, but it'll mainly be video. But I will make a podcast feed because people have been asking me, hey, Lyndon, we love Run It Back, but we would love to listen to it in the car while we're driving and have a podcast feed. So we will do one soon for all of you who prefer audio only. But that's all we got. Like I said, next time we'll be either talking Paul Thomas Anderson or Steven Spielberg, one of the two. Jump in the Discord to help us decide. Link is in the bio. But until next time, for Schubert, for Ian, my name is Lyndon. Y'all have a good one. Until then, peace.